The static was alive. It crackled through the speakers of my beat-up radio, filling the cramped space of my apartment with a restless hum. I sat hunched over my desk, headphones clamped tight over my ears, my notepad open to a mess of scribbled theories. Then, at exactly 3 a.m. it started, a faint shuffle, the sound of fabric brushing against a microphone, a single, ragged breath. Then, a voice, low, distant, distorted by age or interference. "Do you hear me?" A pause, then a second voice, softer, afraid. "Please, I don't want to do this." My stomach tightened. I leaned closer to the radio, fingers gripping the volume knob. A metallic scraping sound, footsteps on concrete, the shallow, panicked breathing of someone trapped in the dark. I knew what came next. A struggle, the sudden gasp, the final muffled scream before the transmission cut out, leaving only the empty hiss of static. The same transmission that had played at this exact time last week. And the week before that. A pattern, a ritual, a confession. The police didn't care. They dismissed it as an elaborate hoax, some freak broadcasting old crime scene audio over pirate radio frequencies. But I knew better, because I recognized one of the voices. I sat back, pulse hammering. My notepad was filled with theories, connections, timelines. The broadcasts weren't random. The distorted voices, the muffled cries, they matched unsolved disappearances going back decades. The same sound, the same time, every week. But the part that really made my skin crawl? Last week's recording featured a voice I knew personally. A woman who had gone missing 10 years ago. A woman I had once loved. And then, just as I was about to shut the radio off for the night, something changed. The static wavered. A shift in frequency. And then, a new voice. Not old, not distant. Clear, crisp, recent. And it said something that made my blood turn to ice. "Are you listening, Will?" I ripped the headphones off, my breath coming fast. That was my name. The transmission cut out immediately after. No static, no distorted cries, just dead silence. The room felt suddenly smaller. My apartment, once just cluttered and depressing, now felt wrong. I turned slowly, half expecting someone to be standing behind me in the dark. But I was alone. The radio sat motionless on my desk, the red power light blinking like an unblinking eye. I had spent months chasing this story, hunting for the person behind the broadcasts. But now they were hunting me. I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk, staring at the radio, half expecting it to start again. The room was silent now, but the words still clung to the air. "Are you listening, Will?" The voice had been clear, not warped by static, not distorted like the others. Someone had spoken directly to me, which meant they knew who I was. I reached for my notepad, flipping through the pages of my investigation. Red circles marked the dates and times of each broadcast, stretching back months. Every transmission was the same, a pattern of suffering buried beneath layers of static. But tonight's was different. Someone had broken the pattern, and that meant I wasn't just listening anymore. I was part of it. I grabbed my laptop, fingers trembling slightly as I pulled up my contacts. My best source on the case was a man named Ray Barker, a retired radio technician who had spent years tracking pirate broadcasts across Detroit. If anyone could tell me where the transmission was coming from, it was him. I typed out a message. Will Carter. New broadcast was different. Someone spoke to me. Need to trace the signal. A few minutes passed. Then, 3 dots. Ray Barker. Meet me in an hour, same place. I exhaled. Relief. Then, without warning, my radio turned back on. A sharp burst of static filled the room. The speakers hissed like something shifting just beneath the frequency. And then, the sound of breathing. Slow, measured, close. I froze, my hand hovering over the volume knob. A faint rustling, like someone adjusting a microphone. Then a whisper. "You're too late." My stomach clenched. The transmission cut out just as fast as it had started, leaving nothing but silence behind. I shoved back from my desk, heart hammering. I turned in a quick circle, scanning my apartment, checking the windows, the door. The locks were still in place, no signs of forced entry, but someone had just spoken directly to me. Not a recording, not an old crime, a live transmission. And that meant someone was close. I grabbed my jacket, stuffed my notepad into my bag, and bolted out the door. Ray was waiting for me, and I had a feeling I didn't have much time. The city felt different at night. Detroit had always had a pulse, faint, erratic, but still beating. But as I drove through the empty streets toward my meeting with Ray Barker, something felt off. The streetlights buzzed like dying insects, casting long, flickering shadows over boarded-up buildings and rusting street signs. I kept checking my mirrors. Whoever had spoken to me through the radio, they were watching, listening, maybe even closer than I thought. Ray's shop was tucked away in a forgotten stretch of the city, squeezed between an abandoned gas station and a junkyard full of stripped-down cars. The sign above the door read, "Barker Radio Repair," but the neon tubing had died long ago. I pulled up and killed the engine. The building was dark except for a single light in the back. I knocked once, twice, then pushed inside. Ray Barker looked like he hadn't slept in days. His gray beard was uneven, his clothes wrinkled, his fingers stained with grease and nicotine. He barely looked up from the cluttered workbench where he sat, surrounded by cracked radios and tangled wires. "What the hell did you get yourself into, Carter?" he muttered, lighting a cigarette. I dropped into the chair across from him, rubbing a hand over my face. The broadcast changed. Ray exhaled slowly, watching the smoke swirl toward the ceiling. "Yeah, I know." I frowned. "You heard it?" Ray finally looked up. His bloodshot eyes held something I hadn't seen before. Fear. "I've been tracking this signal for a long time," he said. "Long before you ever got involved." He tapped a stack of old notebooks. "It's always been the same. Old recordings. Fragments of something terrible, buried in static." He leaned forward. "But tonight was different." I nodded. "Someone spoke to me, Ray. They said my name." Ray's fingers twitched. He crushed his cigarette in the ashtray. "Then you're in deeper than I thought." I waited, pulse ticking in my throat. "You can trace the signal?" Ray hesitated. Then he reached for an old, rusted receiver on the workbench, flipping a few switches. A low hum filled the air, followed by a faint crackle. Static. I felt my chest tighten. Ray turned a dial, adjusting the frequency. Then, a sound. Not a voice, not yet. Just the soft creak of a chair, a shift of fabric, a presence just out of reach. Then, clear as day, a whisper. "He's already here?" A crash sounded outside. Ray jolted upright. I spun toward the door. Footsteps. Heavy. Coming closer. Ray shot me a look. "We need to go, now." The shop suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. Someone had been listening, and now, they were coming for us. Ray killed the receiver, plunging the room into silence. Outside, the footsteps stopped. I held my breath, every muscle tensed. Ray's eyes flicked toward the shop's only window. Dusty, cracked, a perfect vantage point for whoever was out there. We weren't alone. Ray moved first, crossing the room in 3 quick strides. He flicked off the backlight, plunging us into near darkness. My pulse pounded in my ears as I listened, waiting for another sign of movement. Then, a metallic rattle. The doorknob. Ray cursed under his breath. He grabbed a rusted metal toolbox and pressed it into my hands. "There's a back exit. You take it and get the hell out of here." I shook my head. "Ray, come on. Don't argue." His voice was low, urgent. "Whoever's out there doesn't want a conversation. A second rattle, more forceful this time. The doorknob twisted. Then, bang! The door shook violently. Someone was trying to force their way in. Ray shoved me toward the back room. Go! I ran. The storage room smelled like old wires and dust. My heart pounded as I fumbled through the dark, feeling for the back door. Behind me, I heard Ray cursing, the sound of something crashing. A struggle. I turned back just in time to hear another bang, this one flesh against metal, a sharp grunt of pain, then the unmistakable sound of a body hitting the floor. I froze. Ray? Silence. Then the static returned, not from a radio this time, from everywhere. It filled the air, a deep hum vibrating in my skull. My legs locked in place, my mind screaming at me to move. But the sound was inside me. A whisper slithered through the noise. You should have listened. I didn't think. I ran. I crashed through the back door, stumbling into the alley behind Ray's shop. The cold air hit me like a slap, but I kept running, feet pounding against the cracked pavement. The city around me was empty, dead, and then a radio flickered to life. Not mine, not Ray's. A car parked at the end of the alley. The headlights were off, but the radio inside buzzed with static, the volume climbing higher and higher until... Run, Will! The voice was barely human, distorted, stretched, like something buried in the transmission of an old, dying frequency. Then, the driver's side door creaked open. I didn't stop to see who was inside. I bolted, cutting through side streets, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I didn't know where I was running, only that I had to get away. But as I turned a corner, a realization clawed into my mind. Ray had been right. This wasn't just a signal. The signal was hunting me. I ran until my lungs burned. The streets blurred past me in a smear of flickering neon signs and empty storefronts. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed to keep moving. Whoever was behind this had found me at Ray's shop. That meant they knew my name, my face, and exactly where I'd be. I had spent months chasing the signal. Now it was chasing me. I cut through an alley, ducking behind a rusted dumpster, forcing myself to stop and listen. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, but beneath it, silence. No footsteps, no car engine creeping closer. Had I lost them? I exhaled, trying to slow my breathing. Think, Will. Ray was down. I didn't know if he was alive, and going back would be suicide. The police? They hadn't cared about the broadcast before. If I showed up at a precinct rambling about pirate signals and ghost voices, they'd laugh me out of the building. I had one option left. I needed to go off the grid. I pulled my phone from my jacket and tapped out a message. Will Carter. Need a safe place. Urgent. I hesitated for a second, then sent my location. A full minute passed. Then 3 dots appeared. Unknown number. Warehouse, Junction, and 12th. You have 15 minutes. I didn't wait to question it. I pushed off the dumpster and kept moving. The warehouse was a relic from Detroit's past, an abandoned shell of metal and glass, its windows broken, its walls covered in faded graffiti. The city had forgotten about places like this, which made it perfect. I slipped through a side entrance, stepping into the shadows. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust and rusted machinery. Faint moonlight streamed through holes in the roof, casting eerie patterns on the floor. A figure stood near an old workbench, arms crossed. You look like hell, Carter. I exhaled, relief and tension crashing into each other. Nice to see you too, Harper. Detective Naomi Harper, ex-cop, now a private investigator. We had crossed paths before. She had left the force after pushing too hard on a case that the department wanted buried. She had a reputation for digging up things better left alone, which was exactly why I needed her. She studied me, her sharp eyes scanning my face. Who's after you? I shook my head. Not who. What? That made her raise an eyebrow. I pulled out my recorder, my hand still shaking. The broadcasts, they changed. Someone spoke to me, Harper. They said my name. For the first time, I saw something flicker behind her expression. Not skepticism, not dismissal, recognition. Harper exhaled. Then you're in deeper than I thought. I frowned. What do you mean? She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small, battered cassette tape. She held it out to me. Because they spoke to me too. Harper's words hit me like a punch to the gut. Because they spoke to me too. I stared at the cassette in her hand. It was old, worn, battered, like it had been played too many times. A faded strip of masking tape was stuck across the front, but the label had long since smudged away. I swallowed hard. Where did you get this? Harper didn't answer right away. She turned toward the workbench, grabbed an old cassette player, and slid the tape inside. The machine whirred to life with a soft click. A deep hum filled the warehouse, vibrating in my chest. Then, a voice, not distorted, not buried under static, clear, and it made my blood turn to ice. Harper, you shouldn't have come back. I looked at her sharply. That's you. She nodded, her expression unreadable. The tape continued. A second voice, low and mechanical, laced with something unnatural. You should have listened. A burst of static. Then, a scream. The recording cut off abruptly. The room fell into suffocating silence. Harper pressed stop and exhaled. That was recorded 2 years ago. My head was spinning. What happened 2 years ago? She hesitated. Then finally she said it. I was investigating the same thing you are. My stomach twisted. The broadcasts? She nodded. I was getting too close, following the signal. And then I started hearing my own voice in the recordings. I clenched my jaw. And you just stopped? Her expression darkened. Number. I disappeared. That threw me. What? She folded her arms, choosing her words carefully. I was following a lead, one of the transmission sites. I remember walking into a building, a basement. The walls were covered in old radio equipment, the floor lined with wires. She paused, her jaw tightening. Then, nothing. No memory of what happened next, no sign of a struggle, nothing. I stared at her. How long were you missing? 3 days. The air felt colder. Harper continued. When I came to, I was in my apartment. My keys were in my pocket. My gun was still loaded. But something was wrong. I already knew what she was going to say. The radio was on, wasn't it? She nodded. And it was playing that tape. A slow dread coiled in my gut. This wasn't just a game. This was a trap. I ran a hand through my hair, my nerves raw. So what do we do now? Harper grabbed the tape and shoved it into her pocket. Her expression hardened. We find the next broadcast before it finds us. Harper didn't wait for me to argue. She grabbed her coat, tossed her cigarette onto the warehouse floor, and crushed it under her boot. Come on. I hesitated. Where are we going? She gave me a sharp look. You wanted to trace the broadcast, right? Then let's trace it. Something about her tone unsettled me. Harper, you already tried this once. It nearly got you killed. And now it's happening again. That means we're out of time. She was right. The transmissions weren't just a puzzle anymore. They were a warning. Whoever was behind them was pulling us in like a spider weaving a web. And we were already caught. Harper's car was a rusted-out '87 Chevy Caprice, the kind of vehicle that made you question whether it was stolen or just old enough to be legally dead. She floored it down the empty streets of Detroit, gripping the wheel like she was steering into a war zone. The city blurred past in streaks of neon and decay. Where are we going? I asked again. Harper's jaw tightened. An old radio tower, near Zug Island. I frowned. Zug Island was an industrial wasteland, a stretch of factories and abandoned buildings that the city had all but given up on. You think the signal is coming from there? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her jacket and pulled out something small, a frequency scanner. This picks up shortwave pirate signals. She tossed it onto my lap. We'll know we're close when the static gets louder. I stared at her. You had this the whole time? She smirked. What, you think I just quit? I've been waiting for that signal to come back. Her hands tightened on the wheel. And now it has. We hit the industrial district just before 4 a.m. The roads were deserted, lined with skeletal factories and rusting freight containers. Zug Island loomed in the distance, a silhouette of smokestacks and forgotten industry. The scanner in my hands hissed with white noise. Then, a flicker. The static wavered, shifting frequencies. The same sound that had haunted my radio for months. I turned to Harper. We're close. She pulled onto a cracked side road, killing the headlights. The car rolled to a stop in front of an old maintenance building. Small, windowless, and dead silent. This is it. Something inside me twisted. This was a mistake. But Harper was already stepping out of the car, her hand hovering near the pistol on her hip. I followed, the static from the scanner growing louder with each step. The building loomed in front of us like a tomb. Then, from somewhere deep inside, a voice. Low, distant, waiting. Come in, Will. The voice sent a bolt of cold through my chest. Come in, Will. It wasn't a recording. It wasn't distorted. It was live. Harper froze. I could see her hand twitch near her gun, but she didn't draw it. Not yet. They know we're here. Her voice was quiet, but tense. I swallowed hard. Yeah, I got that. The maintenance building loomed in front of us, its metal door slightly ajar. A warm hum of electricity buzzed from inside, accompanied by the soft crackle of static. The radio signal was coming from here. I could feel it, vibrating in my bones. Harper shot me a look. We don't walk in blind. I nodded, glancing around. To the right, an old service ladder clung to the side of the building, leading up toward the radio tower. If the signal's broadcasting, there's got to be equipment inside, I said. You check the building, I'll go up. She frowned. Splitting up in a horror show? Real smart. We need to know what's up there. She studied me for a moment, then sighed. Fine, but if you die up there, I'm not dragging your corpse down. I gave her a thin smile. Good to know. The metal ladder was slick with rust. My hands ached as I pulled myself up, rung by rung. The city stretched beneath me in a sea of dead factories and flickering streetlights. Halfway up, the static in my scanner shifted. It wasn't just white noise anymore. It was breathing, slow, measured, right in my ear. I clenched my jaw and climbed faster. By the time I reached the top, the sound was deafening. A steel platform wrapped around the base of the radio tower, and in the center, a makeshift broadcasting station, a metal folding chair, a stack of old cassette tapes, a portable transmitter hooked up to an ancient reel-to-reel recorder, and beside it, a microphone, still on, still live. The realization sent a fresh wave of dread through me. This wasn't some abandoned signal left on autopilot. Someone had been here, recently, and then, a voice, not through the radio. Behind me. You finally made it. I turned fast. A figure stood at the edge of the platform, half hidden in shadow, tall, thin, wearing an old radio headset, the kind used in broadcasting decades ago. My throat went dry. Who are you? The figure tilted its head as if amused. Then, it stepped forward. The weak light caught its face, and my stomach dropped, because I recognized him. But Ray was dead. Wasn't he? My breath caught in my throat. Ray Barker was dead. I had heard the struggle at his shop, heard the crash, the body hitting the floor. I had run because I thought there was no saving him. But here he was, standing in front of me, or at least, something wearing his face. Ray tilted his head slightly, the faint glow from the radio equipment casting shadows across his hollowed-out features. His headset crackled with faint static, like a signal struggling to come through. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Carter." I swallowed hard. My mind screamed at me to move, to run, to do anything, but stand here frozen. "I heard you die, Ray." My voice felt foreign in my own mouth. "What the hell is this?" His lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You've been listening for so long, Will, but you still don't understand." I took a step back. "Understand what?" Ray lifted a hand and pointed to the microphone. "The signal doesn't just broadcast, it takes." The air around me felt heavy, charged like a thunderstorm about to break. The static in my scanner surged, growing louder, drowning out my thoughts. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it was inside me now, burrowing deep. Ray stepped closer. His movements were slow, unnatural, like a record skipping just slightly out of sync. "You were part of this before, Will." His voice barely carried over the rising static. "You just forgot." Something in my brain lurched, like a locked door straining against its hinges. Flashes, a basement, tangled wires, a microphone hissing with dead air. A voice whispering my name just like it had tonight. "You should have listened." I sucked in a sharp breath. I had been here before. The broadcasts, the voices, they weren't just recordings. They were fragments of something real, something I had been a part of. My stomach turned. No, that's not possible. Ray, or whatever he was now, watched me with something almost like pity. "You know what happens next, don't you?" The static grew deafening. I looked down at the microphone. The live indicator was still glowing red. It was broadcasting, right now. Then, over the noise, I heard, "Harper. Will, get the hell down from there." Her voice snapped me back. I turned, looking toward the ladder, just in time to see her storm onto the platform, gun raised. Ray, or the thing that used to be Ray, slowly turned toward her. Harper didn't hesitate. She fired. The gunshot shattered the air, and the signal exploded into pure, deafening sound. The gunshot split the air. Ray, or whatever he had become, jerked back as the bullet struck his chest, but there was no blood. No impact. He staggered, his body flickering like a bad signal struggling to come through. Then he vanished. 1 second, he was there. The next, gone. But the static remained. It grew, surging from the speakers, the radio equipment, even my own scanner. The entire tower unhummed, vibrating under my feet. Harper grabbed my arm. "We need to go. Now." I barely heard her. My eyes were locked onto the microphone, its live indicator still glowing red. The signal wasn't stopping. It was building. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't just a pirate broadcast. It was a trap. A loop of voices, memories, lives stolen and replayed over and over again. Ray hadn't survived. He had been taken, just like the others, just like the woman from the tape, just like I almost had been. And now, I was next. The air twisted, filled with voices that didn't belong here. Some I recognized, some I didn't. And one of them was mine. "You should have listened." I turned, grabbing the nearest piece of radio equipment. The transmitter. The source. Harper saw what I was doing. "Will." I ripped the wires free. The signal screamed. The tower shook violently. The metal beneath us groaned. Sparks burst from the old radio console, the lights flickering wildly. The static surged into a high-pitched wail, a final dying transmission. Then, silence. The radio station went dark. I don't remember climbing down the tower, just that Harper was dragging me, shoving me into her car. The city blurred past in streaks of orange streetlights and black pavement. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing to say. The station was gone. The signal was dead. But something told me the voices wouldn't stay buried forever. A week passed. Then 2. I didn't go back to work, didn't write a word. My apartment felt suffocating, like the walls had absorbed the echoes of something I didn't want to remember. Harper checked in, but she didn't push. She understood better than anyone. The case was closed. No reports, no headlines, nothing. Like it had never happened. But I knew better. Because at night, when the city was quiet, when the world felt just a little off, I still heard the static. It came in whispers, in the buzz of a streetlight, in the hum of a broken TV, faint, waiting, and then, one final transmission, a voice through the speaker of my dead radio. "Are you still listening, Will?" The power light flickered, red, and the static returned.